you guys will be able to select that chat. So instead of trying to talk over each other for questions and things like that, we'll try to get to everybody as they pop up. So that's a great spot to just kind of pull that up. And usually, at least I get a notification as the host that somebody's kind of lit that up, and there's a question in there. So we'll try to keep on track with that as best we can. We'll talk about Zoom more in a little bit. Kind of wanted to get kind of into an intro about why we started to do this. So you guys will notice, if you guys have been in Slack, we're up to close to 300 registrations, which is more than I originally thought. I thought this was going to be kind of something small that we were going to do kind of just for our facility, kind of, interact with some guys. So as you guys picked up on, we know some of these guys are on this video. Some we don't know at all. So those of you guys who I haven't met in person yet, maybe interacted on social media with, good to see you guys. Good to put some names to some faces. And as it kind of came together, the classes grew. We added more weeks. More and more people were kind of donating their time and kind of wanted to be a part of it. And so we wanted to share it with more people because we think there's some really smart people who are going to do presentations, and we didn't want to kind of hog it all to ourselves. So that's kind of how it started. A couple things. So all the Zoom links are going to be posted in Slack. If you have questions about Slack, feel free to send me an email to my email, which is just ryan@johanssonbaseball.com. I'll get back with you guys as quickly as I possibly can. You guys can also ask questions in Slack. So today, some people were asking about what time it started, and other players were engaging with each other, kind of answering those questions. So that was pretty cool to see. The idea behind Slack is that we have a forum outside of Zoom. So, we do the Zoom chat, and, if somebody has a question or something gets left out or something's forgotten, then it kind of disappears. We have to wait for the next call. Whereas with Slack, we can kind of go back in, we can take notes, we can communicate with each other. There's some really, really good minds in here that have registered. We've got everybody from 11-year-old kids who are going to have awesome questions, who are going to try to get their work in, to very, very tenured coaches who are also here to kind of hear the presentations and communicate with everybody. We've got professional players on. We've got all the way down from across all levels. We've got college players on who are interested in kind of following along. We've got high school coaches, and it's just a really cool mix of baseball people that hopefully somebody can answer your question, and somebody can interact with you guys if it's something that you guys are interested in. So keep that in mind. The whole point of this was to create engagement, and we wanted to add this active engagement where we can kind of look at each other on the screen. We could ask questions in the chat versus, hey, watch this video, I think this is important, posting it online and having some people go back and watch it later. So this whole thing is designed to be about active engagement. So the more active we can be, the better. The layout of the day is pretty similar every single day. Today's a little bit different because we've got some housekeeping stuff to kind of go over. But the layout of the day traditionally is going to be about a 10 to 15-minute presentation on some kind of personal growth topic, baseball topic, something to kind of keep us thinking and our minds going while we're kind of stuck at home. The next piece will be some kind of workout or hitting drill that will be led by some coach, whether it's myself, AJ, or obviously the guest volunteers and guest coaches who are coming on board. The expectations for that are many. You can do kind of however you want. There's going to be everybody who's just taking notes on kind of what we can be doing during quarantine and while we're kind of stuck. And there's going to be guys like JT who are ready to get after it right away, and kind of go from there. So the idea behind behind this whole thing, is, like I said, active engagement, active participation. The more that we can kind of communicate with each other and do these things, the better. Kind of really quickly on Zoom and I think we kind of went over Zoom. Does anybody have any specific questions on Zoom? If you guys do, that chat box is in the middle bottom area of your screen. And I'll address those in Slack later if you guys have any questions. Slack. I'm going to share my screen to kind of go over Slack really quick. Give me 1 second to do that. Sorry about that. Perfect. All right, so a couple different things. Can you guys all see my screen? Just kind of nod your head if you guys can. Should only take one of you guys for everybody to see it. Okay, so if you look, if you guys can see my cursor, Our main channel is going to be the Savage Donkey University channel. This was, like I said, this was originally for our facility, kind of an inside joke between our guys there. So apologize for the name. Obviously, we've changed it to the GOAT Experience, which is sponsored kind of by GOAT Baseball, which we've got a link for that stuff there. So this information where it says update right here, this has been pinned to the details section. So if I can kind of drag this over, if you go to the details section here, oops, and you go to pinned items here in Slack, this is always going to be where you're going to be able to find those links again. You're going to be able to find the daily itinerary, and you're going to be able to find your Zoom links. So every day, the idea is that you'll come into Slack, around 1:50 Central Time, 1:55. Join the meeting ID and password. This is a daily meeting. It's set up for 15 classes. If there's a problem with that, then what I'll do is I'll obviously repost it and we'll address that. I'll make sure that still works for tomorrow before you guys have it. But this is where you guys will find our Zoom meetings. I know that was a big question about it. So it will not be emailed to you. I will try to remember to post it in the main channel, but there's also this pin post in our details page of this specific Savage Donkey University channel. That's kind of how you guys will interact from there. The other thing kind of go over with Slack is that the idea is, again, that we have engagement. So my kind of vision for this is, if JT over there, who's out there throwing the ball around with his buddy, wants to ask, one of our professionals a question, or, if one of the high school guys has a question about something that they saw, maybe a pro player says, hey, I did that when I was in college. I liked it for this reason. Then I progressed this way, and it can kind of create conversations across levels. I think it's going to be really cool for the kids to be able to gain that kind of knowledge and wisdom. And it's also going to be awesome for older players who've kind of been there to give back. So I'm excited about that. Try to be as engaged as possible. Coaches, feel free to jump in there. There's nothing you can't say, obviously within reason, baseball stuff. There's no agenda here. So if you feel like you've got something to share, make sure you jump in the Slack file. If you've got a document that you want to share, if you've got a website, something you think will provide value, please share it. We're all here to learn from each other. On Zoom, make sure you mute yourself if you're not talking. We talked about that. Use the chat box. Kind of good practices and kind of expectations for this. Number one thing is, let's make sure we're respectful to each other. I know, obviously, if you're in this group, it'd be my assumption that you're, a respectful person. But obviously, with all the animosity and stuff that can kind of be shared over social media or kind of hiding behind keyboards, let's make sure we're respectful. It'll probably kind of be a no tolerance policy. If there is something that kind of pops up on Slack, whether it's by a player or coach, I'll make sure we guys get you guys removed from there and handle it that way. I don't anticipate that being an issue, but let's make sure that we keep that in mind. The documents and all the information, like I said, will be pinned in that Slack area. So if you have questions, that's the first place to look. If you can't find it there, I will make sure that we go and answer it that way. Kind of good practices for all these is there's going to be some pretty impressive speakers talking. What I would try to do is I'd try to kind of look at the schedule ahead of time and come up with maybe one or two questions. With as many people that we're planning on having on the call, you might not be able to get to your specific question, but if we answer it in the chat or if we bring it back to Slack, it should be a great conversation starter to keep everybody engaged that way. So again, this whole thing is about active engagement. I want to make sure I kind of hammer that point home. I'm going to turn this over, get you guys moving a little bit. If you guys are kids looking to go, if you're a coach looking to see kind of what the workout's going to be like, I'm going to kind of pass this over to AJ. AJ Gill is the screen you guys want to have on. If you're unsure about how to make sure you can see his video, if you find AJ Gill, there's a couple arrows too that'll say like 1 through 4 on the side of your screen. You'll be able to find him. His video's on. He's the one with the nice Florida background. He's wearing an American flag hat. And what you'll do is you'll click the 3 dots and you'll put spotlight video. And I think actually, since I have him as a spotlight video, is everyone should be able to see his yellow square around him already. But when you click it, it should make the screen big for you guys. So with that, AJ, I'll kind of let you take over. So the schedule for today is AJ's going to kind of run a workout. He's kids, athletes, if you guys want to join along, it kind of was my vision. If you want to just kind of see what he does and kind of go from there, you guys can do it. If you don't like it when people watch you work out, but you want to follow along, turn the video off. But the plan is he's going to kind of lead us through some stuff, and then I'm going to post the workout, the PDF after. And then when he's done with his workout, I'm going to do a quick presentation and it'll be take probably less than 10 minutes. AJ will do a devotional if you guys want to stay for that, and then we'll do questions and wrap up, and we'll go from there. So that's kind of the expectation for the day. And thanks for everybody coming on.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. I know it's going to be a little tough just because we're all, on a Zoom meeting, so it's going to be a little different, but I'm going to do my best. If you have any questions at all during this time, go ahead and stop me. So we're going to talk a little bit about mobility today. We're going to talk about some things we can do at home with strength. If you haven't already, you need a backpack full of textbooks or something like that. Just, so throw some in a backpack, make it a little bit heavier. It's going to make it a little bit easier on you. So we're going to get started with the mobility series. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about pelvic control and hip mobility, and I'm also going to hit on ankle mobility a little bit and the importance of those things. So we're going to start with hip mobility, and we're going to cover a little bit about internal hip rotation. So in order to kind of get you guys to understand what internal hip rotation is, I'm going to stand up, scoot this chair back a little bit so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. All right. Can everybody see me? Just put a yes in the chat if so, making sure we're all good here. All right, good deal. All right, so we're going to talk about internal hip rotation. So we're going to sit down in a chair, and you're going to make 2 fists like this. All right, and then we're going to set the fist between your legs, just like this, and you're going to drive the fist out of your hips. All right, and then you're going to try to resist that tension of the fist driving out with your hips. All right, and what that's going to do, that tension you feel is what is actually called internal hip rotation. So the tension, like I said, it's called internal hip rotation, and it's essential for creating a powerful and efficient swing. And it's kind of like the Kickstarter for the kinetic sequence. So as we know, the kinetic sequence is going to go hips, it's going to go torso, then shoulders, and then barrel. And I actually put a hyperlink on the link that Ryan's going to post later. If you guys want to see that, it's done, I think it was Anthony Brady put it on Twitter. He's a really good guy to follow as well. Kind of posts a lot of of the sequencing and 3D graphs and stuff like that, just kind of give you a better idea of what it looks like on the a human skeleton. So if the hips don't fire correctly, this can cause a lot of issues down the kinetic chain, speaking in terms of the sequence of it. And according to TPI, most elite golfers have over 45 degrees of internal hip rotation on both sides of their hips. So this is really important. If you don't know, TPI is kind of the authority when it comes to swings. They're kind of like the experts on the swing. They do a lot more with golf, but they're kind of starting to divvy into baseball a little bit as well. So today, the first thing we're going to go over is seated hip internal rotation. So like I said, we're going to start in a seated position on the ground with your knees at 90 degrees. So I'm going to put the camera back down, and I'm going to kind of walk you guys through this a little bit. So bear with me. Sorry for all the transitions here. All right. So we're going to start in a seated position, ground at 90 degrees. Okay. So as close as 90 as you can get. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to look in a position just like this. All right. You're going to extend the left arm behind your body. So it's going to be in a position just like this. And then we're going to put the right hand on the inner knee right here, on the right knee. And you're going to push that knee towards the ground. And we're just going to stretch it out. Okay. We're going to try to keep this heel planted on the ground. If it puts too much pressure on your knee, you can take your heel and put it in the ground like this and turn this way, and it'll take some pressure off that knee joint. But you should feel like a tension in the outer hip as well as the inner hip on the inside. And all that's doing is really stretching that inner hip muscle, just allowing for a little bit more internal hip rotation. What I would recommend is I would do 20 to 30 reps on each side of your hips each day, and you'll start to notice some hip mobility freeing up. That's kind of what I did over the fall, and it really helped my hip mobility, helped my squat, helped a couple other things, and it really freed my hips up and allowed me to move a lot better. What that translated to for me was bat speed, a little bit more power, and just kind of injury prevention. So it's very important. Next thing I'm going to do is squatting internal rotations. So we're going to start in a deep squat. All right, and I'm going to get as deep as I can. I'm a bigger guy, so it's a little tough for me. But we're going to start in a deep squat, and the hands are going to be clasped out in front of you like this, okay? Some call this a prayer squat, whatever you want to call it, sumo squat, however you want to refer to it, but this is what we're going to do. So using your left leg, you're going to push yourself slightly upward onto the left side. So it's going to look like this, all right? As the right leg falls toward the ground, your right thigh should rotate inward towards your hip socket, just like this, okay? So you're going to pause there, hold that as long as you can, and then you're going to return to a normal squat. All right, we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Pause down, return to a normal squat. So we'll do this for a couple of reps each side. You don't want to overdo this because this can be kind of a tough drill. You should feel some pressure on your shins, maybe some in the hips a little bit as well. But like I said, this is kind of a little bit more advanced, so you might want to hold on to something. I'm actually using a chair right here. You can kind of see it on the camera. Just kind of hold myself up a little bit, provide myself with a little bit more something to grab. That way I have a little bit more stability. But if you just kind of work through the range of motion, and what you're going to find is if you work through that each and every day, you're going to explore those in ranges of motion, and you're going to free up some of the hip mobility. And what that's going to allow you to do, just like I said, injury prevention, it's going to help a little bit with the kinematic sequence as well. And it's just going to make you feel a lot better as far as like an athletic profile goes. So the next thing we're going to talk about is pelvic control. Also, if you guys need any more hip mobility drills, Ryan can provide those as well. I can provide those. I'm sure a lot of coaches on the top that can provide additional ones as well. So you just guys got to let us know. Zoom chat, if you want to get in on those, we can definitely do that. So we're going to move on to pelvic control. So pelvic control, specifically referred to as posterior tilt, is moving the pelvis forward under the shoulders, independent of the torso, and it helps maintain direction, posture, and produce power. That definition was taken from Ryan on the Johansson Baseball Drill Library. A lot of good drills for pelvic control if you guys want to look in there using PVC, medicine ball, other things. So prone pelvic control is the first thing we're going to do. This is a really easy one. I'm sure a lot of you guys who train at Johansson are familiar with this one as well. So, going to lie down on your backs, just like this. And all we're going to do is we're going to press the back into like that. And then we're going to lift off of it as hard as we can, arching that lower back. And then we're just going to repeat that motion a few times. And you're going to try to breathe deep whenever you're going to try to exhale on there, you are just to really get to that end range of mobility. So like that, exhale out. Here, exhale out. So you can repeat that exercise a few different times. That's one that we'll do for the it's kind of as a movement prep. When we do at the facility, we'll do that along with our peaking drills. Just kind of really work on pelvic control. Like I said, super important part of the swing. And then, you can kind of progress that. We'll go into the healing disassociation with adduction. This is where you're going to need your backpack of books, a medicine ball, something like that. And this is where that'll come along. So I'll kind of walk you guys through this one. So I'll give you a second to kind of get your backpack full of books or whatever you got. All right. So I would recommend, I'm going to be on concrete here. I'd recommend using probably carpet. If you got like a row mat, something like that, a yoga mat, probably throw down under your knees. Just kind of like, not be a little easier on them. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our heavy object, whatever it is. We're going to hold it straight overhead, arms extended. All right. I'm going to back up a little bit so you guys can see me a little bit better. All right. So I'm going to straight overhead. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to turn my pelvis without it bowing out. So we don't want this move to happen. This is what we don't want to happen. Ryan calls it the Fortnite. It's on the website. We want to avoid that. We want to keep everything nice and tight and be able to turn using our glutes. So your glutes should be contracted whenever you do this one. And then you're just going to try to turn that each way, really explore those end ranges of motion. The best way to do this, if you can't do it with something overhead right away, that's fine. I would recommend using like a med ball, holding it out front. Something like a 10-pound, 15-pound weight would be fine. But you want to have something in front of you just to keep you more stable. And then just work through the progression until you get to where you can do it overhead. Actually, at the facility, we end up using water bags as one of the means of progressions that we use there. It's really helpful. It's helped me a lot, and this really translates into the swing. It's one of my favorite things that I did this off season, and I'm really glad I did it. So, and it's something that really you don't need a lot of space to do. So it's something you can do inside your house if you're locked in. Obviously, with the quarantine thing going on, we don't know how much longer this is going to last. This is something that we can really hammer and get better while we're stuck inside. So let's see. All right, guys. So sorry for all the moving around, trying to do my best here with the situation we got here. So we're going to talk about ankle mobility now. Now, this is something that it's not going to really affect everybody. If you have trouble going into a deep squat and you have trouble, like when you come up on your toes in a deep squat, this is something that might be a limiting factor for you, would be ankle mobility. So like I said, it's not in every athlete, but it is definitely in the majority. I typically would see it in taller athletes, guys that hit a growth spurt in high school really fast. You might have, an ankle mobility limiting factor. And this was something that I didn't really know I had, but my strength coach at Royal University helped me get through it. We talked about some different ways, some exercises that I can go through. And I really saw it translate as far as like my heel connection going into my swing. And then this is something that kind of you can see with like the force plate data that we do at the facility, just being able to hold that heel in the background as long as possible. So this is something that you'll see a pretty good translation, and it kind of works up the kinetic chain as well. Ankle mobility can be a limiting factor for, how much you can turn your hips in the swing and things like that. So like I said, it's something that it's a small thing that's really easy to fix, but it can cause problems if not addressed. So I'm going to give you guys one exercise to do with this, and these are called wall ankle rockers. Super easy. So let's see here. Luke, you mind holding the camera for me real quick? I'm going to get my brother to hold the camera here. So just flip it around just like that. All right. Actually, you know what? Follow me over here to the wall. Sorry, guys. A little bit of technical difficulties here. Get this out of the way. All right. So put him over there. That way you can see. All right, guys. So you're going to find a wall. Turn it around, both. There we go. So you'd find a wall. Typically you see the stretch. Most people, this is a calf. Have both spun around. Normally what people would do is they lean back and you would stretch here. But this drill is actually more focused on the lead leg towards the wall. So what we're going to do, keeping both legs on, or keeping both heels, I want you guys to lean into this one, and you're going to front and travel over this as much as possible. So what you're going to feel is you're going to feel tension either in the front of the calf here. This is referred to as the soleus, or you're going to feel tension here in the back of the calf, which is referred as to gastrocnemius. Tension means it's tight, and the best way to relieve that is by stretching it every day. So we're going to go through a couple of these. I'm going to let my knee travel as far as it'll go, keeping my heel and my toes both on the ground as long as possible. All right, and then I just kind of rock back into those. All right, and you should feel tension. If not, that probably means that your ankle mobility is fine. But this is a really good test to kind of determine that. So I'm going to go to the other side. All right. So I'm going to rock over the toes. This one's not as tight as the other one, but there's still a little bit of tension there. So I'm going to really try to get to the far end of the range of motion as possible. I'm going to let that knee travel as far as it'll go, and I'll bring it back. All right, thanks, man. All right, guys. So that is my short lecture on mobility there. The rest of the time, we're going to be spent on our workout, which is going to be our backpack full of books workout. Sorry, guys, it's hot. I'm in Florida. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what we can do, some things that we can just find with things laying around the house. I know you guys, a lot of you guys don't have access to gyms right now. Fortunately, I'm in the situation where I have access to barbells and weights and things like that. So if you have that, I would recommend that 100% first. We got to move the ranges of motion with, resistance. That's the most important thing. If you don't have access to that, there are still things you can do. Don't freak yourself out about it. Everybody's going through it, and we're all kind of, trying to make adaptations right now. So don't think you're falling behind. If you're doing something, that's better than doing nothing. And that's the biggest thing I can recommend. So we're going to talk about the backpack full of books workout. I'm going to kind of put you guys through it. So I'm going to work through the sets with you guys. I was going to kind of just like move through it. I think we might have enough time to make it work. So I'm going to kind of rush through it a little bit. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to unmute yourself and stop me. And I kind of like answer those questions as we go. But so we'll get right into it here. So the first thing we're going to do is backpack rows. All right. So I'm going to set my camera down here. I'm going to back up to give myself some space. Make sure you guys can see me here. Looks like you can. And I'm going to give you guys side-by-sides and frontal views. That way you can kind of understand what's going on. So for the backpack rows, this is going to be an upper body, upper back workout. So we're going to feel it in the back of the traps. We're going to feel it in the scaps and then the lower lats as well. All right, so take the backpack. Go ahead and tighten up your strap all the way. All right. There we go. All right, so we're going to take the backpack. I want you guys to grab it on the straps of the backpack. Not by here. You can if you'd like, but it's going to be easier if you grab it by the straps like that. All right, so we're going to bend over into like a bent over row. So we're going to get that like RL position here. We're going to have our backpack here. Then we're just going to row it up towards our body and back down. All right, so a couple from the front here where you can kind of see what's going on. So right up to the chest, all the way back down, do the full range of motion. All right. Some of you guys might think it's a little bit of easier workout, so I understand that. So that's why we're going to go. We're going to go through sets of 20 for this, and then I would recommend 4 sets of each workout that I list. If we don't get through all of it, that's fine. Before I have to pass it back around, that's completely fine. But we are going to try to move as much as possible that way. So I'm going to go ahead and go through a full set of the backpack rows with you guys, and then we'll move on to the next thing. All right. So we're going to go backpack rows for a set of 20. I'm going to do it for the side. That way you guys kind of get a bigger picture here. All right. 7, 8, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right. So like I said, you should feel that one in the, you should feel it in like the back of your scaps. Is the best place you're going to feel that one. And then right in the lower lats as well. And then maybe even in the traps as well, just depending on how high you pull it up and what your spine angle is set at as well. If you want to challenge different muscle areas, all you have to do is change the spine angle. So if you bend over more, you're going to feel it more in the lats. The higher up you stand, the more you're going to feel it in the scaps and the traps. All right. So the next thing we got is the backpack push-ups. All right. So these are going to be a little tough. That's why on this one, I said 4 sets of 8 to 12. This one's going to be more dependent on your body weight, obviously. If you're a big, heavier guy, this is going to be a little tough for you. If you're, a smaller guy, this one you should be able to fly right through it. So we're going to get right into these. It's pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to put our backpack on. Sorry about that. All right. And when you do this, guys, I would recommend tightening the straps all the way. That way it's just the most secure. All right. So I'm going to get into a plank position just like this. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of these challenges on Instagram, so you should know what you're doing. All right, and we're just going to go through 8 reps, okay? So down, up. I want you guys to kind of like really work through the ranges of motion nice and slow. We don't want to fly through these. We really want to just feel the resistance all the way down and all the way up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so those are a little tough for me. And I don't do body weight stuff very often, but I do like to move some pretty heavy weight, and those gave me a run for my money right there. So they're going to be pretty tough, but that's something that'll help you guys tremendously. Just for getting the chest, triceps, basically all the upper body activated there. That's going to be your best bet if you don't have barbells or dumbbells or anything like that. So we're going to go into backpack prisoner squats now. These are going to be a little challenging, depending on how heavy your backpack. So we're going to put the back on. Like I said, strap it all the way up. Going to be the best bet. All right, so I'm going to back up just so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right, so what we want to avoid to do is we don't want to get up on our toes like a catcher. All right, so if I get into this position on the squat, not where we want to be. We want to try to keep heels on the ground. So if you have to spread out a little bit to do that, I'm one of those guys that my heels typically come off the ground when I squat. Sumo squat, and that's fine if you have to. So you're going to have your heads above your head just like this. So just like this, hands behind the head, and we're going to go into a prisoner squat. So as far as you can go, and that's 1 rep. All right. The rep scheme on this one is going to be 4 sets of 15. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit and make it 4 sets of 20, that's completely fine. But I'm just going to run through a set of 15 with you guys one time real quick, just so you guys know what's going on, okay? Sorry about that, guys. Jeez. There we go. All right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, like I said, if that was easy for you, feel free to do sets of 20 instead. But like I said, we're going to do 4 sets of each exercise. I'm only going to go through 1. Might have time. I might loop back through it and do a second set of each. But so we're going to move on from there. We're going to go to overhead reverse lunges, 4x8 each leg. These are going to be pretty tough. This is really going to help your stability. That's why I'm doing it overhead. We do this at the facility with a water bag, and it's really challenging. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. All right. Working with the sweat now. All right, so we're going to take our backpack. You want to hold it side by side. Just make sure you got a firm grip on it. That way it doesn't come down and knock you in the head. All right, so I'm going to hold mine side by side just like this. We're going to get a good grip overhead. All right, so side by side, this is kind of what it's going to look like. Want the arms fully extended. Try to get those biceps tight to the ears. And then we're going to work through reverse lunges. So for the reverse lunge, we don't want to overstride. We don't want to understride. So an overstride would look probably like this. All right, and what that's going to do is not going to be much of a range of motion there, and it's kind of going to keep me off balance. I want you guys to really try to keep the weight in the lead leg. So what I mean by that, whatever leg's in the front, so in this case, it'll be my left leg. I'm going to try to keep all the weight in my center of gravity over this leg, okay? So I'm not necessarily worried about the stretch backwards. I'm more worried about keeping everything center here and just going down into a lunge from there, all right?
AJ,
what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 sets of 8 each leg. And then, like I said, if this is something that's a little easier for you, you can make it 4 sets of 12 if you'd like as well. So here's what we're going to do. Overhead here. I'm going to go through 4 sets of 8 with you guys on each leg. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now I'm going to go to the right leg. Turn this way so you guys get a better visual. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, guys, you should feel that one. That's going to be more of a total body, just considering that it's an overhead press as well the whole time. Should feel that one in the core, back of the triceps, all that stuff, and then obviously the legs as well. Just kind of a coaching point for those. If you're moving really fast and out of control, kind of defeating the purpose of the rep. Want that one to really be slow and controlled. Try to control your body. Really practice your stability. Kind of out of that one. So let's see. All right, backpack plate raises. sure you guys are all familiar with plate raises. Obviously, we don't have plates, so we're going to use a backpack for these as well. So go ahead and tighten your straps up all the way like we had in the first time. All right. Take the camera down again. All right. So for these, all it's going to be, we're going to have the hands on the inside of the straps, just like this. All right. I would set them on top of your, I'd run the straps across the top of your hands and then run your fingers out just like this. Keep the arms extended the whole time. All right. So you're going to extend the arms out as far as possible. Take the weight up just about 45 degrees overhead and then easy eccentric motion down. All right. So what we're going to do, what that's going to do is it's really going to work on the rotator cuff, the front delt, rear delt. It's really going to help just strengthen those up. Those are really small muscles. A lot of times they get overlooked, and that can be really bad for baseball players. Obviously, we use our shoulders quite a bit. Lefties and righties, it doesn't matter. Pitchers or not, you really need to make sure you're emphasizing shoulder strength and that you're hammering some sort of that every day, whether it's bands, through weighted exercises, or both. So we're going to do 4 sets of 8 of those. We don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to run through a set of 8 with you guys real quick. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, guys, just some coaching points there on that one. You want to try to keep as flat as the back as possible. All right, so you don't want to hunch over when you're doing those. That would kind of do the purpose of it a little bit. If you want to have a slight hip hinge, and what a hip hinge means basically is whether or not I have a little bit of like an RDL stance, this will be considered a hip hinge. If you want to create a small spine angle, that's fine too, just to really hammer that hip stability as well. I would highly recommend that. Just move as many planes as possible. So now we're going to do our 6 exercises of that circuit, which is curls for the girls. I'm sure you guys are familiar with those. It's probably my favorite exercise to do, so we're just going to jump right into it. All right. So if you want to do it this way, you can do single arm, depending on how heavy your backpack is. I'm probably just going to do double arm just to walk you guys through it for the first time. All right. So what I'll do is I'll kind of reverse the grip that I had on the shoulder raises. Turn my hands like this, like I'm holding a cup of soup. Extend the arm out from my body. I'm just going to pull for the curls. All right. Try to hold the backpack as steady as possible. And like I said, work through both ranges of motion. If you want to do a single arm, you can use the strap up here. All right, you have a nice tall back. Shoulders are nice and high. And then we're just going to curl it just like this. All right, so side for you. All right, I'm sure you guys love those. Those are, again, it's my favorite exercise to do. Pretty self-explanatory there. So we're going to move on to our core circuit. See how we're doing on time here. All right, perfect. All right, so we're going to run through our core circuit now. We're going to do backpack planks, rotational swings, and backpack good mornings, okay? The good mornings are technically considered a lower back exercise. Depending on who you talk to, most people consider the lower back to be part of the core as well. And I'm one of those people, so for the workout sake, we're just going to list this as a core exercise. So let's jump right into it. We're going to go backpack planks, 3 by 30 seconds. Depending on the size of your backpack, size of your athlete, those are going to be limiting factors to how long you can actually stay down there. You want to try for at least 20 seconds. If you can do for more than 30 seconds, that'd be great too. I'd probably cap it around a minute though at the most. So we're going to do a high plank for this. High plank meaning push-up position. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our scaps aren't extended. This is a completely different exercise. We want to get down into it just like this. Arms nice and extended. Keep the tension in the core. Break 4, and then we're going to count for 30. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All right, guys. So that's going to be our backpack planks. If you want to do 3 sets of high and then pair that up with 3 sets of low planks, you're more than welcome to. Again, this is all dependent on your level of experience, your level of strength, things like that. So I would recommend 3 by 30 seconds on each side. I would recommend 3 sets of each core workout that we posted in the Slack group chat after this. So we're going to go with rotational swings now. These are going to be a little tricky depending on how your back set up all over the place, but that's actually a good thing. Want a little bit of instability. We're going to try to use our big stabilizers here, and you'll see how that translates into the swing. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So we're going to do rotational swings, 2 by 10 each side. Just find somewhere on the backpack to grab. I'm actually going to use a strap here on the back of the backpack, and then I'm going to use the front of it right here at the top of it. So what we're going to do with these is I'm going to stand on one leg. So whether it be the right leg or the left leg, it's up to you, whichever one you want to start with. So you guys can decide how this is going to look. So I'm going to hold my leg up. Don't want to get too much of a hip hinge, just a slight one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the backpack, and I'm going to swing to each side. All right? And I'm going to try to be stable as possible while I do this. All right? This is really tough. Depending on, how heavy you have your backpack, you might have to take some books out to make this work. Like I said, at the facility, we use a water bag to do this. It's really helpful. I'm not sure how much those are online, and I don't know how long we're going to be on quarantine. If that's something that interests you, I'm sure Ryan can get you the link to that as well. But for right now, we'll just use our backpacks. So that's what it looked like from the left side. I'm going to go to the right now. I'd recommend 3 sets of 10 on each side with this. Depending on if you're hitting after, if you're going to go right in the swinging after you do this, because this is part of our movement prep series, I'd probably go 2 by 10. So I got my backpack here on the right leg now, slight hip hinge, moving to the right, center, left, center. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mention this now. When you do this exercise, when you go from left to center to right, that's 1 rep, okay? So if I was going to go right, center, left, that's 1 rep. Basically 3 movements equals 1 rep. So it's going to be 30 movements total, if that makes sense. So we're going to do backpack good mornings now, 3 sets to 15. All right. I'm going to run you guys through these, and then I'll hand it over to Ryan. Okay. So, all right. So for a good morning, essentially, it's going to be the same kind of hip hinge that I've been talking about for the RDL. And depending on how you want to do this, like level of experience is going to be a limiting factor as well. You can either have the backpack on, which is what I'm showing right now. I'm just going to go down into my good morning here and right back up. Okay, another way to do it, if you'd like, you can hold the straps. If you're going to do that, I would tighten up your straps. You can do it this way. Hold it nice and tight to your body. And then nice and easy down. Nope. I would really try to pause at that last, like when you get to the bottom of that movement, really pause and try to feel that eccentric motion. You should feel the tension here in the back of your hamstrings and the glutes a little bit. And that's going to be a really good posterior chain workout for you. Just kind of keep everything nice and tight in there. All right. So I'd recommend 3 sets of 15 for that. And then, like I said, just kind of pairing those core workouts together. Those are really going to be all you need. Just as like total body core workouts. I'm not a big advocate of doing like, Russian twists, and like, a lot of the eyewash ab workouts you see on YouTube and guys that program things like that. Stick to the basics, hammer those, get really good at those, and then you'll see the results for sure. So what time we got? We got 3:47, Ryan. I'm going to turn it back over to you. So it's all you, man.
All right, awesome. Let me share my screen really quick. I appreciate you guys who weren't participating, hanging out for this next presentation. Maybe we should have scheduled that a little bit differently. Done something separate for the kids who want to participate. We'll look at the schedule and see if we can't do that in the future. Today on the schedule, we had arm care and throwing, but our arm care throwing guy had some internet problems, so we're going to just go right into the presentation and get you guys out of here a little bit sooner. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to talk about how to be your own coach. So something that's really important to me, Nate and I talk about at the facility a lot. I know with almost every single coach that I've talked to, whether it's been at the ABCA at across different levels, is that we're trying to eliminate ourselves. We're trying to teach these guys how to be. We're trying to teach you guys how to do this on your own, how to take ownership over your development, how to be confident in the choices that you make and things like that. So I kind of wanted to start this off kind of our whole series on how to be your own coach, especially because we are stuck at home. And I think there's a lot of life lessons that kind of go into there. Obviously, us as coaches are doing a lot of this stuff on our own. We're setting goals for certain topics we want to learn. We're setting goals for a certain amount of people we want to connect with, or different people that we have time for, and things like that. So hopefully, guys, I'll try to keep this short. Hopefully, you guys like it. So things we'll cover is why do you need to learn to be your own coach? What is our definition of being coachable? How do we manage our career from season to season? I think that applies to us as coaches as well as players. We're going to cover goal setting as well. So kind of the first thing of why I think you need to learn to be your own coach is the first thing is that you're going to have many different voices throughout your career. Whether you're, a player who's 15 years old and he's gone through a variety of travel teams, obviously T-ball, coach pitch, whether you are on a travel team and a high school team, whether you're playing on a college team and then a summer prospect team, there's always going to be different voices, whether you have a totally separate facility that you train at outside of where your team plays. I think it's important to know that you're going to have a lot of different voices on how to kind of navigate that. So kind of being your own coach and being able to navigate those voices to create one kind of plan for yourself, I think is really, really important. Nobody can play the game for you. Obviously, as we know, when the coach, if you look at these two pictures here, this T-ball dad can't go and hit off the tee for him. I'm sure he'd love to. He'd hit it out of the park and, he'd get to bat flip and stomp on a bunch of 5-year-olds, and it'd be kind of embarrassing for everybody. It's about you guys kind of managing the level that you're at and growing in what you guys are trying to do. And it's frustrating sometimes for the coaches who, I'm sure we've all had it. We've all been guilty of it as coaches, getting really mad when a player doesn't perform. Like it's almost like when we have the expectation to, but in reality, like that's not fair to a certain extent. So nobody can play the game for you. Your coaches can't get mad at you and make you better. Your coaches can't give you the magic bullet. You've got to be able to take ownership of what you're wanting to do and the information that you want to use. I think it's important to learn a lot of information, but we can become too coachable. And we'll talk about that in the next slide as well. Coaches have different personalities. There's going to be coaches that, you really like one thing about a team or about a school or about an environment that you guys are in. And, or, you have a head coach with a different personality of your assistant coach, and maybe they don't match up all the time. You've got to be able to kind of be flexible in how you understand information and how you look for information, how you get along with people. So being able to navigate different personalities of coaches is going to be important to your learning style and how you get into it. I think we're in an age right now where there's a lot of the blame game. And we blame different environments. We blame, this coach did that and that's why I didn't perform, or this coach did this and that's why, I'm not getting any better. That's why I'm not getting any playing time. It's important to know, like, we can't be in that mindset. And so managing different personalities across the board and being respectful of everybody that you come in contact with is just going to make you more coachable, but it's also why you need to be able to coach yourself. Because if you can't get along with your coach, you still got to be able to develop and perform. So our definition of being coachable is gathering information and applying what you feel makes sense. There's information coming from all over the place, including these presentations. You're going to have different strength coaches who are going to tell you different things. You're going to have different hitting coaches that are going to tell you different things. Pitching coaches are going to tell you different things. Everybody's going to kind of have their own idea and their own kind of things that they think are really important. And as a player, you've got to be able to take that information and apply what you feel makes sense. If you're over coachable, you would end up leaving these presentations with more questions than answers, which one is good. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to apply what you learned in an effective way, in an effective manner. And if you're not gathering that information appropriately, then you're not giving yourself the best opportunity or the best resources to learn. And if you're not applying it appropriately just because you're listening to that person, or this person has this title, so I'm automatically going to just listen to what he has to say, or, this person, I know longer, so I'm going to listen to what he has to say. I have more trust for him. And there's a lot of really good information out there and a lot of things that can apply to a lot of different people. One of the biggest things that coaches talk about is that everybody's different. And so if they've got an idea, if they've got something that works, it might work for 70% of people they talk to. But if you're in that 30%, you've got to be able to find your information from a variety of different places and apply it when it makes sense. And on the flip side, know when not to apply it if it makes sense. That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk and say no or do all those other things. But I think it's important that as you're gathering information, you're taking notes, you're taking inventory, you're becoming aware of what you think is important and what you agree with and what you like and what you want to risk trying. And it's totally okay to pick the wrong thing and try it out and figure out that, hey, maybe this other guy was right. And maybe I should have listened to him and maybe I'll dive down that rabbit hole the next time. So it's about being confident, which we'll talk about in a couple of the next slides. This very next slide, actually. So a couple of traits that I think coachable players have is I think they're respectful, first of all. Kind of going back to what we talked about is gathering information and applying what matters. I don't think you have to be disrespectful to, have a conversation with a coach. I'm personally in the hitting world, so I talk about this all the time. Like, I think hitting is a conversation. I ask players, like, how do you feel about that? What do you think? I ask a ton of questions. I'm probably almost annoying sometimes with how many questions I ask. And some of the guys around this call probably attest to that. I want to know, like, why they think that's important, what they're feeling, what they specifically want to try to do. And I want to figure out how I can be their best assistant for them so that they can be their own coach. That's kind of more for the coaches there on that aspect. But I think respectful players make that happen for people who maybe aren't as engaged or don't ask as many questions to kind of learn about their players as much. So the more respectful you can be, the more you're going to be able to effectively gather information as a player from coaches from all walks of life, all environments, all levels, and things like that. Being ambitious, I think, is really important. I think that if you're looking for information and you have information to give or to get, that you're going to get more information being ambitious. If you look in this call, we've got over 90 people on the call, over 300 people registered for this class. Like, those are ambitious people, eager people to gain maybe one little nugget of information that they hadn't heard before. Maybe it'll be a lot for some people. Maybe it'll be none for some people. But the fact that you're taking the time to do this as a player is showing me your ambition. And you'll notice a lot of really, really high-level coaches and high-level players on this call looking for more information. So being ambitious to find the information while being respectful is going to be two really important traits. Being open-minded, and that goes kind of back to gathering information. You might not like exactly what a coach tells you to do, but being open-minded to listen and figure out, does it fit what I'm trying to do? And then, again, being ambitious to learn more about it, not just negating it and saying no right away, but kind of listening and trying to listen to understand, not just listen to discard. I think coachable players are really confident. I think they're confident what they want to do. I think they're confident what they're trying to do. I think they're confident in the approach they want to take, and they know that what decision they make and the conviction that they're going to have and the direction that they're going to go is going to play. Belief, I think, plays so much better than any specific mechanic, any specific device, any specific methodology. I think if you believe in what you're doing, it plays a really large role. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with some of our other speakers on the mental side and psychology side. I think coachable players are really self-aware. I think they understand where they struggle. I think they're humble in the fact that they're okay with knowing they struggle in those certain areas. I think they're interested in getting better, not just interested in knowing things, not just ambitious to get better, but they're interested in the topic and the conversations. I think that makes them ambitious, and I think they're consistent. I think they're consistent in the fact that they look at these traits and they try to be those traits every single day. And they're consistent in the sense of they want to get better. They want to have really good conversations with coaches. And they want to be confident. They want to be self-aware. They constantly ask themselves questions about their self-awareness, and they know themselves really, really well. There's a chat, but I'm trying to figure out how to pull it up here while I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sure if I can. AJ, can you tell me what the chat says? Are you able to see the chat while I share my screen?
Yeah, so we had a question. They just asked if we're going to be able to share the the presentation that you have right now afterwards?
Yep. So this is a PDF file. I'm gonna make sure we get shared with you. I did find out on Slack that we like if we try to share everything on Slack, it's going to basically like explode Slack. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another page on our website, and I'm gonna put all these documents in there, and I'll provide a link. So this will kind of be a private page just for you guys. I'll make sure I share the link in Slack. So Slack will have a link to basically this other sub page that will have all our PDFs, all our recordings, and things like that. Good question. Managing your career from season to season. So obviously every season is going to need a different version of you, but staying true to yourself and your goals can remain the same. An example on the coaching side is, especially at the college level, is you might have different personnel every year, especially depending on what level you're at. If you're at a JUCO level, you're going to have a different personnel carry over faster than if you're at a 4-year level. It depends on, your recruiting classes, how big are your recruiting classes, from grade to grade, year to year. So each season is going to need a different version of you as a coach. As the generations change, we need to make sure we coach for the generations. Coaching millennials now versus the next phase of Generation Z's versus the phase after that is going to be very, very different. And it was very different before, coaching the players, in the 90s and 80s. So players, for you guys, it could mean you go on a new team and you're not the star shortstop anymore, but you really want to be the best infielder you can be. Maybe you're not the 4-hitter anymore. But your goals for being the best player you can be, maintaining confidence, understanding what you're trying to do, those can all maintain the same no matter what version of yourself that you have to turn yourself into. Not everybody's playing experience is the same. So again, if you shift to another team, maybe you go from being the 9-hitter to the 4-hitter. Maybe you're the 4-hitter and you drop down to maybe not even cracking the top 9. Maybe your playing time's different. Maybe you get injured. That's a totally different, something to navigate. You're going to have to navigate that physically and mentally. It's going to require a complete different version of you, and staying passionate and understanding what you want to do is going to play. Your position may change. Your coach might ask you to play a different position. I know college guys who have played all 8 positions across 4 years except for pitch. I know guys who have done all 9 positions except for pitch. We had to ask a guy in to come who's literally not a pitcher. He's only strictly an outfielder. And we had to ask him this past season to come close a game because we didn't have any bullpen arms. Now that's a game to game, but these are some random things that you might have to deal with. Obviously, at the lower levels, you have to deal with it more than at the pro level, but that stuff happens even at the professional level as well. There's outside factors. There might be some seasons where you're managing some anxiety. Maybe there's a year that your schooling work is just really, really tough, and you're not sure how you're going to be able to manage that. So outside factors are going to play into things that you got to take into consideration to be the very best you, and how you're going to manage your career from season to season. So that all goes back into being coachable. So if I go back to the last slide, one of the words, kind of why I skip past some of this stuff, is self-aware, humble, interested, and consistent. How consistent can you be? How self-aware can you be of your situation? Are you going through anxiety? Are you really confident, or are you not confident? Are you humble enough to admit that, like, hey, I'm really struggling right now, and try to find help? Are you interested in finding help? And how consistent are you staying true to yourself? A couple things in this last side is fair does not mean equal. People talk about playing time all the time. What is equal playing time? What is equal playing time? Well, in baseball, when we're trying to win games, especially depending on the level you're at, like, the best players need to play, and fair doesn't always mean equal. And now if everything was fair and everybody put in the same practice time and everybody had the same, exact same effort level, so to speak, then maybe things would be more equal, but that's just not the way the game works. There's going to be people who are more talented than with less work. And you're going to be on teams where you have maybe the least hardest worker is the most talented player. That's just life. And your coach constantly puts them in. Is that something that's right? I don't know. Every coach is going to have their opinion on that. There's going to be coaches who are going to say, no, the hardest workers play all the time. I think it's going to be level dependent as well. But you have to understand that fair does not mean equal. It doesn't mean equal in baseball. It doesn't mean equal in life. And you've got to be confident in the sense that you've got to be able to manage yourself and stay confident and be self-aware of where you're at as a player. And your want level has to match what your work ethic. If your want at level matches your work ethic, it might mean that you have to put more work in to achieve your want than somebody else. And that's just the nature of it. It's not the sexy cliche type, work hard and it'll all work out. There's a lot of people who work extremely, extremely hard and have to even work harder than what they think they have to do in order to achieve it. What I will say about that is that consistency, when we talk about being consistent, working hard consistently is what's going to give you that opportunity. Short-term intensity over long-term consistency does not play as well. So make sure you guys are focusing on long-term consistency there. I think even us as coaches who have, devoted our lives to this stuff, some guys who have done this for 30, 40 years on this call, way longer than I have, respect that a ton. Like it's a grind. So it's something that, even as you get older, you're going to have to deal with that stuff. And then lastly, independent confidence versus dependent confidence. It's something I came up with a couple years ago, and I think we're all born with independent confidence. I've got a 3-year-old right now, so I'm learning how independently confident she is to do things and try things and say things. She doesn't care what anybody thinks of her. She just wants to wear, whatever she wants to wear, silly, mix and match dresses and things that look absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, we think it's cute now, but something, when she's 16 and she's worried about what her friends are going to think is going to be very different. So we're born with independent confidence, and our experience creates dependent confidence. And what we need to do as baseball players and as coaches, especially in the most criticized, one of the most criticized professions, is be able to stay independently confident. If our intentions are good and we're doing everything we can to move ourselves forward and move our teams forward, then we should be confident. We should be confident in that, and we shouldn't have to be dependently confident. And there's a lot of people that say, well, success breeds confidence. And that's true, but I think that breeds dependent confidence. I think that's a thing. I also think that there's independent confidence. And if you have dependent confidence, hopefully if you're stuck on dependent confidence, hopefully you're having a good time. Because if your confidence is dependent on your external factors, I think you're going to have a really rough time. If you're consistently independent confident and you're self-aware of what you think and how you feel, then I think you're going to be able to handle those slumps and those things up and down. A couple more things, then we'll get you guys out of here. Goal setting. So coaches, you guys have probably seen this stuff before. Players, maybe you guys have. We call them SMART goals. So by we, I just mean I didn't invent this, but these are the SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So you'll see the kind of the captions at the bottom. What do you want to do? How will you know when you've reached it? Is it in your power to accomplish it? Can you realistically achieve it? When exactly do you want to accomplish it? So specific meaning, be very specific in what you want to do. If you limit it to things that you can't control, like I want to start at shortstop, you don't make the lineup. So something specific would be, I want to make, 35 defensive plays this year, 5 diving plays, things like that. You could be more specific than just, I want to be the starting shortstop. You might never be on a team where your coach thinks you're a starting shortstop. But you can talk about your defensive skills in a more specific way. Measurable. That's kind of what I mentioned. I want to make 35 backhands this year. I want to have 10 more feet of range. I want to have 5 more miles an hour of bat speed. Achievable. If you say something like, I want to hit the ball 110 and you're 11 years old, like you're probably not going to hit it 110 11 years old. Like, what is achievable? I think achievable and realistic are kind of similar in that, but also achievable can go back into what I mentioned about specific. Is it in your power to accomplish it? Make sure that it's something that you can control, and then make sure it's realistic. And then when exactly do you want to accomplish it? I like to set shorter term goals. So for younger players on here who are stuck in quarantine, if you have like maybe create really small goals for yourself that you can actually, achieve, kind of maybe stick to these SMART goal settings and see if you can get done and really feel comfortable and productive about being stuck at home and not being able to play in the games, because I know we're all disappointed about that. Couple things, tips to reach your goals. Keep it simple and focused. If you've got 35 different goals for a baseball season, you're trying to solve all the world's problems in one day or one season, it's going to be really tough. You're going to end up kind of with a jumbled mind. Make sure that your goals are simple and focused. If you want to have an offensive goal, make it about some specific simple thing. Don't try to lead your team in RBIs and add 30 points to your batting average and steal 25 bases and add 10 miles an hour of exit velocity, average exit velocity or whatever. Like, don't have all these different things. Keep it very simple, keep it very focused, and then progress through. And that's kind of where the timely stuff can come into play. You can kind of plan it out. The younger you are, obviously, the more time you have to progress through these. Positive affirmations. Make sure you guys are talking positively to yourself. Your brain is so powerful. We're going to talk about that in some of these other talks with our sports psychologists. Make sure you guys are having positive affirmations. Write down your plan of action with a defining end date. So that's a kind of a theme, like timely, end date, plan of action. All these things need to be specific. So if you guys are taking notes right now and you've got a couple goals in mind, if you write down 15 goals, don't try to accomplish all 15 of them. Keep it simple and focused. Write it down. Have a plan of action that's going to allow you to do that. Tell a friend and find people who support you. The more people you tell about your goal, the more likely it's going to be. And there's some kind of statistic out there that is, I don't know exactly how they come up with it, but it's like a really crazy number. That if you tell somebody, you're 80% more likely to accomplish your goal. I don't know where they come up with the number. I don't even know if that is the number. But if you tell people, you're going to have that support system where they're going to remind you of it. You're also going to feel obligated to, like, oh man, I told that person, now I got to do it. So make sure you tell a friend, find people who support you. And then be intentional. If you intentionally remove your distractions, if you know that, you really like to binge watch a Netflix show, and anytime you're in a room with a TV, you have it on in the background, and all of a sudden it's on in the background and an hour went by and you haven't done any work. Make sure that when you're doing your work, you take that away. If there's something, if you hang out if you're texting and you know that texting takes away from your workouts, don't bring your phone to the gym. Be really intentional. And that comes back to being self-aware and knowing yourself and writing some of those things down. So in your written plan of action, talk about things that you want to remove, talk about things that you want to make sure you do. And then list your priorities. Keep your goals in your sight daily. If you go through a day and you know that if you wake up and you want to eat breakfast every morning, but you wake up and you turn on Netflix and all of a sudden it's 11 o'clock, like, make sure like you have it written down that your priority is to get a certain, amount of calories in at breakfast time. Make sure that that if your only window to hit is because you have to watch your brothers or your sisters, while mom and dad are at work, or because you have other stuff going on, make sure that in that window you get that done and you're not texting on your phone, you're not on Netflix, you're not doing anything else that can distract you during that time. So make sure, because all of a sudden that time's gone and you're like, oh man, I didn't do it for today. So make sure you list your priorities, make your goals a priority, and then knock those out. Then last thing, I think this is really important. I think you need to forgive yourself for mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So if you do miss a window, if you do skip a day, if you do realize that, oh man, I didn't do this today, you kind of got off the wagon, make sure you just get back onto it. If you were driving in a car and you got a flat tire, you wouldn't slash the other 3. So make sure that you're not going to, be like, oh, I missed 3 days in a row. I might as well just wait till next week. Like, nope. If you miss Monday and Tuesday, start back up on Wednesday. Make sure, and again, that goes to your priorities, goes back to your written plan of action. Maybe write down why you missed those 2 days, have a self-reflection, things like that. So the younger you are, I think it's harder to be self-aware, but I think the earlier you practice, the more that it's going to play longer in life. Things we covered, last slide. Why do you need to learn to be your own coach? A lot of determining factors, but at the end of the day, nobody can play for you. This is your career, your life. What our definition of being coachable is: gathering information and applying it in a way that makes sense to you. Managing your career from season to season. There's going to be a lot of different things that change and a lot of different things that kind of go on the field and off the field. And then it's important to have goals so that way you kind of know what direction you're going to create a path. Coaches, if you guys are on this, pro guys, if you guys are on this, post your favorite goal setting technique or maybe a goal that you've attacked on the Slack channel on that general page. And then players take notes, and we'll go from there. AJ, you want to wrap it up with kind of your quick devotional today?
Yeah, man, I can do that.
Cool.
Before I do that, did you want to take questions or anything on your presentation or anything like that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, does anybody have any questions on my presentation? I heard in the chat. Somebody asked, did anybody get what R and T stand for? It was, realistic and timely. Thanks, Jake. Thanks for everybody who answered that. It's awesome. Love that you guys are doing that with each other. Perfect. Any questions? It's okay if you don't all talk at once. I kind of rambled through that one. Try to go quick. Cool. It's probably good for today, man. Will I be posting the PowerPoint?
Right.
Yeah, so what I'll be doing is I'll reiterate this again. It sounds like if I post it in Slack, these recordings and the PowerPoints, it sounds like we're going to crash Slack or it's going to get really, really slow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it on a separate website or a separate kind of folder, and then I'll post the link to that information. So you guys will have a link to all this stuff, and it'll be all 15 class worths of recordings and these PowerPoints.
All right.
Perfect. All right, go ahead, AJ.
All right, guys. So if you want to stick around for a few minutes of a devotional real quick, I just got a couple of things with everything going on I kind of want to go over. So if you want to stick around, feel free. If not, you're more than welcome to tune in tomorrow as well. So kind of going to be talking about, like, what do I do now? And I know this is kind of a question that is kind of on everybody's mind. So I'm going to start out with a verse, James 4:14. It says, why? It says, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Now, looking back, I can only think of a few recent times where we've ever had something even similar to this, in sports. The closest thing I can think of was like the MLB strike, 1994. It canceled the entire postseason of the World Series. In 2011, we had like the NFL lockout, the NBA lockout. Things like that have happened before, and we've had stoppages of other sports and things like that, but nothing this like catastrophic, I guess is the word, or nothing this big. It's kind of just snowballed. It started with the NBA and just kind of like tumbled down from there. But obviously we're facing something that's very different and unprecedented. I'm sure you've heard that word unprecedented quite a bit over the past couple weeks, but as every sporting league from minor league sports, professional sports, to even college sports has been postponed or canceled in some form. Obviously, first concern is saving lives, and cancellations, they make sense whenever we look at the numbers of flattening the curve and things like that. And I'm glad, because it gives you a sense of I'm doing my part by staying at home and by making the sacrifices, not being able to play the sports we love and do the things we work so hard to do. If it saves lives, then obviously it makes sense. But hundreds of thousands of student athletes have been sent home, and just me personally, myself, in the middle of my senior year, and having lost the opportunity to compete this year for something that I've worked so hard for the past couple of years. And I know that there's many other people that are sharing the same feelings I do. But it left me with a lot of questions. And most of those questions were like, obviously I'm pursuing a goal of playing, professional baseball. And so this left me a lot of questions of like, what about the draft? If I don't have the numbers, like they're not going to see me and things like that. And, how do I train with all these gyms closing down and, facilities closing down? Like, what am I going to do? My daily routine's just been altered. And then even questions like, what am I going to do next year? Am I going to use that, year of eligibility they gave me to go back to school? And does it make sense financially to do that? So just a lot of questions that flooding my head. And I'm sure that, you guys as coaches and athletes, you can kind of relate to what I'm saying as far as just, the what do I do now? So what times like this can be extremely challenging, and they can be extremely, I guess the word I'm looking for is they can be discouraging, and they just kind of throw us off. It can also, we can look back in scripture and we can provide a really, a better perspective and wisdom to pertaining to the future. So I'm going to read you guys what James wrote in chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. So it says, now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. You don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you your arrogant schemes also
Think we lost him. All right, well, that'll be a wrap for today. Sounds like there was some connectivity issues there. I'll get that verse and we'll throw it in Slack if it's something that you're interested in. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's schedule is a little bit more exciting than today's. Obviously, today we had to get a lot of the admin stuff kind of in place. So tomorrow's schedule, we've got a presentation by Kyle Adel. He's the MLB channel manager with Blast. That'll be pretty good. We're going to kick that off, start that off right away at 2 o'clock. And then I'm going to do some hitting stuff. So if you're a player, all you guys are going to need, I'll update that in the morning too. That's the other thing, is that if you're planning on participating, I'll update what you guys need in the Slack folder for today. So obviously today was a backpack full of books. Some guys were ready. Some guys didn't miss the message. So tomorrow it's going to be a dry swing series with some movement prep. And then when I'm done, you've got Ryan Tuntland from Ohio University. He's going to join us tomorrow. He's going to do some defensive work with you guys as well. So that'll be active through there. Ryan will lead our devotional tomorrow. We'll do questions and wrap up. Hope to talk to you guys. See you guys all back on the call tomorrow, and keep some conversations going in Slack. Thanks, guys.